Have you ever asked yourself, how did I get here? Why am I in this situation? That's what we're going to talk about today. My name is Linda G. Robert. I am your Back in the Groove Again coach, and I'm here to help you live your best life now so you can love what you do. So I've been asking myself a question lately. How did I get here? How did I get here? And, my life right now is good. I can say that I've never been happier. I've never been in a better place in my life. But how did I get here? Now, I could ask that question when I'm in a mess. I could ask that question when I'm ending a relationship. How did I get here? How did how did I end up by getting a third divorce, for example? How did I get into smoking pot? Well, you'll have to read or listen to some of my videos on that. I'll add the link up there. Um, but now today I want to talk about how did I get here? How did I get to being in such a great place? It took some time. It took some work. It took having to let go of guilt. It took having to let go of blame. It took having to let go of expectations that I had on myself, and of course, expectations that I had on other people. It took having to let go of some relationships. It took me, having to let go of pride, a lot of pride. I had to let go of some bad habits that I had. And you can take a look at my video on my stories, the drugs and alcohol story, for example. So I had to let go and I had to forgive. I had to forgive myself. I had to forgive others, like my ex-husbands and my ex-boyfriends. I had to forgive them for what I thought they had done to me. Now, I did talk to my ex-husband. I didn't talk to and, physically, I wasn't physically there when I forgave my ex-boyfriend, but I did do it in different ways. So, it's one thing to ask yourself, how did I get here? I'm just going to elaborate a little bit more on how did I get here. So it took some work, like I was just sharing. But I want you to think of how you got to where you are right now. And some of it might be, the overall big picture. Maybe you did make some huge moves in your life and you are physically in this location. So you need to look at the big picture, the big things. And I'm also going to encourage you to think of those little tiny mini decisions that you had to make on a day-to-day basis. When I take a look back at my life, I've done this before. I drew a timeline of my life, and I added some significant moments in my life. Some moments that maybe did veer me in a direction where wasn't good, but I also added some spots in my life, some times in my life when it led into a really good direction. And those moments, now when I look back, it seemed to be, easy. But in fact, they weren't easy. I needed to make some decisions. I needed to, let go of the guilt and let go of shame and let go of all of that. And that took time. It was a process, and I needed to use certain tools. Now, if you love journaling, you're going to want to check into my journaling workshop, and you'll see the link below. That's one of the tools that I used. I used journaling a lot over the last several years, and I started again just a few months ago. I started again because I had some things that I needed to process. Not bad things necessarily, but sometimes you have to process good things, and journaling is also very good for processing good things that are happening in you as well. So that was one tool that I used. I used journaling. I also used letter writing, and I did write a love letter to myself, and I'm going to add a link to that video here as well too. But I also used meditation and mindfulness meditation as well. I use meditation quite often, and of course, I do encourage you to practice mindfulness meditation. I've added a link to that as well. And I encourage you to try different things, because one thing isn't going to work for every time we want to let go of, or for everything that we want to let go of. You need to have different tools in your toolbox. Just like a plumber needs to use different tools, we need to use different tools in our toolbox when we want to let go of things. So over the years, I let go of a lot of things. And it's only when I really look back at my life, look back at the last year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years of my life, that I've realized where I am and why I am where I'm at in my life. I'm not looking ahead. I have some goals, some intentions of where I want to be. But in order to see progress, in order for me to see the progress that I've made, for example, in order for you to see the progress that you've made, you need to take a look back. So I do encourage you to take a look back at the last 6 months, last year, last 5 years. And do you know why, when you take a look back, do you know why you are where you are? And I'll give you a very, very simple example. Right now, I'm in Mexico, and I'm able to work from home. Well, wasn't always that way, right? So in 2018, that's when I quit my job. But there were a series of events before the day that I left my job. There was a series of events that occurred that prepared me in that sense to quit my job in 18. There were also a series of things that I was doing at that time. At that time, in 2018, I started teaching online for different companies. I knew in general sense that I wanted to work from home and that I wanted to travel. But I still had a lot of fears holding me back. I was afraid to leave my job. I really was, because I didn't know how I was going to, make it financially. But those series of events that led me to make that decision, it's exactly what I needed to do. It's exactly what I needed to happen in my life in order for me to make the decision to leave my job. It had nothing to do with my job. It had nothing to do with my job, but it still propelled me to leave my job. So I had inside me the awareness that I wanted to leave my job. I knew I wanted to leave it, but I was too afraid to do it. And something happened that triggered my need, my ability to make the decision. And it doesn't matter what it was. It doesn't matter that it was related to a personal situation, that it was related to a family situation. It doesn't matter. The point is that something helped me to make that decision, and I paid attention to it. I paid attention to it, and I was able to give my notice and eventually, leave that job. Now, it wasn't easy. I had already started working online, but I wasn't able to make enough money to survive, really. I had to make a series of other decisions, other tiny little decisions. For example, I decided to rent one of my rooms. Now, that was a tough decision because I had been on my own for years in that house. And I wasn't sure if I could live with somebody else. And even though the person was renting a room, I was still living with them. They were still living with me. I wasn't sure if I could do that. So I had to do some work around that. So I can see how every little thing that I did, every decision that I made, required some type of tool to help me process and finally make a decision to move on to the next thing.
So how did you get to where you are right now? Oftentimes, a series of events, decisions, using some tools helps us get to where we want. But let's remember that with an intention, with love, you can, with forgiveness, right, with letting go, you can continue to be on the right path. This is Linda G. Robert. You're back in the Groove Again coach, helping you live your best life right now. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, like this video, because there's more videos coming your way. Take care now. Bye-bye.